Well, welcome. This is a wonderful ceremony and a wonderful location. The weather's cooperating fully. I came here today to give you all, many of you are veterans, many of you are related to veterans, and so we all have something in common, I think, those of us who've shown up this afternoon. But I really want to leave you with a very short message. I signed up for the Navy when I was 17 years old. They were kind enough to give me a scholarship to Harvard College. I spent 5 years in the Navy during Vietnam, and then came out and I was in the reserves for a while after that. And later in life, I've spent the last few years as a part-time legislator in Augusta. So these are kind of the bookends of my life, a military career in the beginning, and now a part-time, at least, political career that I'm hoping to make full-time. But you know, it brings home something to me about the difference between serving in the military on the one hand and being in politics or in the legislature or in Congress on the other. You know, when people go to war in an authoritarian society, they go because they're forced to do it by people like Stalin or Hitler or Mussolini. But in America, we go to war because there's a vote taken. And somebody in Congress votes to say, you folks need to shape up, and ship out, carry a gun, and risk your life, and go to war. And the interesting thing about living in America is that not only before the fighting begins, but even when the fighting is going on, we have a debate going on in Congress or in our society or on the editorial pages. And the issue of whether to go to war and how to go to war is something directed by politicians. And even if the vote is only 51 to 50, even if the vote to go to war passes by one vote, the military person says, I'm not part of that debate. I accept direction. I salute, and I will put my life on the line. Why? Because I respect the very right that we all have in America to debate these important issues. And we've all seen examples, those of us who have served, where the politicians and the diplomats have put extraordinary restrictions on how we go to war. Those of you who served in Korea know that there was a military, it made military sense, did it not, to take on the Chinese because they were supplying North Vietnam. And the politicians said, no, we can't do that. And so we fought the war to a stalemate under the rules that were set by the politicians. And in my time in Vietnam, I used to see Soviet ships going into Haiphong Harbor, carrying war material to deliver to the North Vietnamese. On my ship, my destroyer, we could have stopped those Soviet vessels. Yet the diplomats said, no, leave the Russians alone. We're going to fight this on the soil of North Vietnam alone. And so we operated under these significant restrictions. And we saw similar restrictions in Iraq, and we're seeing them in Afghanistan. But we who served in the military don't question those directions from our commander-in-chief and from the legislature or the Congress. We salute, we put our lives on the line, we go to war, we hope to come home, and we do it all because we respect democracy, we respect the freedom to discuss, the freedom to debate, and we know that as civilians, our vote too will count as much as anyone else's. You know, today is the day to go visit the cemeteries and to look at our fallen veterans, the people that are lying there, and to honor the veterans who are named here in this wonderful monument that's been created. And I often like to ask myself the question, what would those folks like to say to me, to you, to those of us who are living, if they could speak to us again? And I think the answer goes something like this. They would want us to enjoy this day. They would want us to go out, drink cold milk from Maine cows, locally brewed beer, hamburgers, and thoroughly enjoy the fine weather of Memorial Day in the coming summer. But they would say this also. Remember, take a moment on days like this and on occasions like this just to remember us who are not with you now, but who have helped to make your life possible. And remember this as well. All of us, whether we're in the military or not, all of us are called upon to serve by our society. Some of us are called to do jury duty. Some of us are called to be on a town council or a planning board or to be in the legislature. We all have a calling to serve the VFW or the Legion. And I think those people lying below ground would like to tell us, as you remember us, remember also that you have an obligation to serve, even if it's in a small way. We all have a mission to serve. That's why we were put here on earth. Thank you very much for inviting me this afternoon. It's a wonderful ceremony. Thank you.